Hello everyone, Jester Bell is back, and my goodness, isn't today kind of a day for grief if you are a person who really follows the superhero realm? So this morning, very unfortunately, very shocking news. Kevin Conroy, the most iconic actor for Batman ever, the voice actor behind him from Batman the Animated Series, passed away from cancer, something that the public wasn't aware of and that caught us all by surprise. And it's very unfortunate that he voiced this character for so long and that we're never going to get to hear him perform Batman once more, even though we just have so much content from him performing the character that we can continue to enjoy. But on that note, I also went and saw Black Panther Wakanda Forever today, and that is another movie that is dealing with the death of a very big figure in the superhero realm, a big actor. Chadwick Boseman, very, very suddenly in 2020 was announced that he had passed away from colon cancer, something nobody, at least nobody in the public, knew about. It caught me completely off guard when the news came out. And so now Disney has to contend with doing Black Panther without Chadwick Boseman. But let's talk about the movie itself, because I still like to judge movies on their own merits, not necessarily what is going on in real life. And that's hard to do with a movie like Wakanda Forever, because it really makes a good chunk of itself about what happened in real life. As you know, people who have been following my channel know I've been very disappointed by Marvel Phase 4. I think that Marvel has declined in quality terribly. Wakanda Forever, I've only seen it once. I don't want to say it's as bad as something like Thor Love and Thunder, which I absolutely hated, but this is a very troubled movie. Half of the movie feels like it is a coping session for the cast and everyone else because of Chadwick Boseman's death, and the other half seems like them throwing their hands in the air, not knowing what to do for the fact that he died. And if that sounds me being a little bit cruel to them, I want to be honest. There's a good chunk of this film that feels kind of exploitative of Chadwick Boseman's death. Let's talk about any elements that I liked first. First of all, I think that the cast all just kind of gave it their all with this movie. There are some really strong performances. Letitia Wright, I really like her personally as an actress. And I think that she really tried to latch onto this new role that she had in the universe and rise to the occasion. Unfortunately, I guess I have to talk a little bit about negatives here. Unfortunately, while I thought that she gave a good performance in this film, I did not think that she was a lead character. She was not good as a lead, and I think that it was a bit of a mistake to make her the lead and to put that kind of pressure on her now, especially, and I guess we're in spoiler territory now, but it's pretty obvious at this point, everyone knows, Shuri becomes the new Black Panther. While I was fine with that initially, when we see her in the suit, honestly, she's so small in stature, even compared when we see her standing next to Lupita Nyong'o's Nakia. She's just so small in stature. I had a very hard time taking her seriously as Black Panther. I'm sorry, I'm getting into negatives again. Other positives besides the performances, some of the cinematography I honestly liked. It looked like there were some moments where they didn't just use a green screen. They actually tried to use the environment and the environment around the characters to make the shots look really great. So I enjoyed that. It's definitely a different looking movie from the first Black Panther. Definitely a different tone. I appreciate that this was a movie that did not drown itself with jokes like other Marvel films had been. It let itself take itself seriously, and that was really refreshing. Apart from a couple moments when we got a little bit too far in the humor, I thought that overall it was nice to see a Marvel movie take itself seriously for once. But honestly, those are kind of where my praises of the movie end. The whole plot going on with Namor, I didn't like. It was so all over the place. So first, when the movie starts out, I was kind of enjoying it, and it is about exploring grief and about how Shuri needs to let go of the hurt and the loss that she feels over T'Challa's passing. And then we have Namor coming in, and then he's threatening to kill a scientist, Riri Williams, because she has a vibranium detector. That it is never explained how people got a hold of her vibranium detector, because she is completely oblivious to it. But for whatever reason, Namor thinks that she needs to die over this. And throughout the movie, it just kind of shifts gears to what the plot is and what the motives are, because first Namor is angry about this vibranium detector and wants to kill Riri Williams, who's pretty much a teenage girl, over it. And the next minute he's like, forget that. I'm gonna just try to take over the world because I'm an oppressed person. I'm an oppressed nation. And that was exactly Killmonger's goal from the first movie. So it felt like we were just repeating things. And that is an example of a film where I felt like they just threw their hands up in the air and they're like, we don't know what to do, so we're just gonna repeat the movie over again. It's paced and structured really weird, where we spend time where it looks like we're going to be about visiting Riri Williams and having the people or our heroes from Wakanda get together and try to combat this new villain. Then a whole big chunk of the movie becomes about the fact that Shuri has seemingly been kidnapped, and then then the movie shifts gears once again later on and becomes about Shuri going down a very dark path and needing to overcome that. So the movie felt incredibly, incredibly long, and it was long, but part of what made it feel even longer is the fact that we were shifting gears constantly and going from one narrative. It almost felt like we were going from one narrative to the next. Once again, very jumbled, felt like they did not know what to do. But I want to talk about the grief aspect, because while the main plot of the movie was very jumbled together, and I was really disconnected with it for a lot of it, because some of it was repetitive, some of it was just all over the place. But when it came to the grief themes of the movie and exploring that with the cast, once again, great performances. Those were some of the best shot moments in the film. And there's an homage at the end to Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and the positive moments you saw with his character from the first Black Panther, and there's bright lighting in contrast to the more shadowy lighting of this movie, and we get to see him and Letitia Wright's Shuri be happy together, which we barely see her even smile in this movie, and that was a moment in the film that really kind of got me choked up. But here's the big problem, and this is where the part where I'm a little bit concerned if this film is exploitative when it's not meaning to be, is that the only reason why a person would feel anything for T'Challa's death is because of what happened in real life. Because when you're writing a story and you kill off a major character, you have to be very strategic about it. You have to have very good reasons for it. You have to have very good build-up for that. Obviously, there can't be any build-up in this film because Chadwick Boseman is already gone, unfortunately. But also, they make his death exactly like in real life. They say that he was struggling with a disease. The disease could not be cured. He struggled in silence, their words, which is very much, it's the exact same as how Chadwick Boseman passed away in real life. He struggled with cancer. He wanted to keep it private, and then his death came very suddenly. But it doesn't make it good as a story. If you're just looking at it as a movie by itself, though, it comes out of nowhere, and then it's like all these characters and plot lines are struggling for something that had no build-up, and it's a complete tonal change from the hope that they tried to portray at the end of the first Black Panther. I actually was getting sad the other day watching the first Black Panther and seeing how optimistic they tried to make that ending, and then going to this movie where it's just such misery. And once again, you're going to argue with me and say, but they had to do that because Chadwick Boseman died in real life. Well, yes, but my thought is, why does his death have to be canonized in the movie? Why does his life have to become this character? I don't know if Chadwick Boseman said anything to Disney before his death, but I strongly believe that the better option for this would be to recast him in this movie. That way you can continue on his legacy and the story of the Black Panther as a more positive figure, rather than have this movie where it all kind of falls apart for many characters and for the world building of Wakanda, because it just felt like so many things fell apart. And you instead have a movie that's all about his death and his kind of the opposite in tone of the first Black Panther. And I call it a bit exploitative because, once again, it seemed like they were canonizing the exact story of his death in this universe for this big movie they want to make so much profit off of. And it was really hard. Like, you could see the pain on the cast's face that this is not just them acting, this is them really suffering the loss of someone in real life. And I'm like, yes, but you're adapting it into a story. And I think that they were very well meaning with this, that they wanted to not ignore Chadwick Boseman's death. They didn't want to pretend it didn't happen, but in adapting it, it feels like, okay, now you're making that the story of the movie that you're hoping to milk people off of. You're just kind of milking his death here, and you are changing the Black Panther franchise from what it was and what it wanted to be for the sake of this real-life death. You've kind of blurred the lines from fiction and reality here, and that's what I really didn't like. So I came out of the movie really sad because of just knowing, having to experience this movie that was essentially a funeral for Chadwick Boseman, but also just feeling frustrated because this was not a really good movie in its own right. It was a movie that was just struggling with a real-life tragedy. So I would say Black Panther Wakanda Forever is just on par for Marvel Phase 4. I don't think it was as bad as some other ones, but it really shows that Marvel has been kind of a mess lately, even without this death, and so one can only wonder what this movie would have been like if Chadwick Boseman had lived through his battle with cancer, or if they had tried to recast. But I want to say one last thing, though. They do leave it wide open for T'Challa to be the Black Panther again. They reveal at the tail end of the movie in the post-credit scene that he and Nakia had a son that they kept in secret, and they named him T'Challa. I really hate this, by the way, that Marvel keeps bringing up random children for random Avengers, and that's how they introduce their predecessors. It's really weird. But I guess that is the doorway to bring in T'Challa back eventually, or a character named T'Challa, but I still think it would have been a wiser decision to just recast the character. But what do you guys think? Do you think that T'Challa should have been recast? Do you think that this movie exploited people's grief? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.